Hello, Local 304. Hope everybody gets to enjoy this Memorial Weekend that brought to you by your union contracts. I want to give you an update on what's going on with Local 304 this week. So let's just start out with Westar. We talk a lot about the open issues. So recently, late this week, there was some discussion about the safety the safety manuals that we're going through to make sure that we've got the proper rules in place to be able to safely and productively perform the work. Again, we've reached the time that there's several of those issues that do require impact bargaining. So getting some dates set for that. I will be sharing some information with the stewards because I am going to need some help and participation to sit at the table while we have those discussions. So more of the details will come out to the stewards. We are looking at the middle of June in order to start those discussions. We had our Westar Healthcare Committee meeting also this week, and so there's a couple very important things that came out of there. One is, and I know we're all having these Cigna issues, and I know we're getting a lot of denials, and so I know this contributes to the fact that we're down about 14% in cost the first quarter. That's overall. That's with the medical, the drugs, and the dental. The dental was up just a tad, which isn't unusual for the first quarter of a year. But several of the things I want to talk about is, in my opinion, what Cigna is doing is they're forcing consumer-driven healthcare on us by the penalties that we're having to pay. So without the education of what consumer-driven healthcare means, we're just faced with paying out of pocket. In general, what consumer-driven healthcare means is that the patient needs to be an advocate for their insurance. Normally, you see this in very high deductible plans where there's a monetary force in order for you to, or push, I should say, for you to get involved in being an advocate of what you're being prescribed, what you're being diagnosed, or how they want to do the investigation diagnosis like MRIs and CTs. So, in this case, what we need to do as members is please keep us informed as to what's going on, but also you as the patient get more involved with your doctor and say, hey, doctor orders an MRI as an example, make sure the doctor actually says it's medically necessary, and if it comes back as a denial right away, then please ask your doctor to get involved with that appeals process through the peer review with the other doctors of Cigna. It sounds like one, we're not getting involved, and that in a lot of cases the Cigna will say something like, well, the patient just needs to go to 6 weeks of physical therapy and then we'll review it. If your doctor says no, that physical therapy won't work, then it should push right towards that MRI. And as far as chiropractic, again, it just says make sure that your doctor says that this your chiropractor says that this was medically necessary. So that, again, that helps push that claim through. I know it's a hassle. I know we've never had the pre-authorization stuff, and according to the company, we still don't. But it just looks like the healthcare industry is really screwing us on this, so we need to be paying attention to those things. Be more of an advocate of yourself. Specialty drugs. Good Lord, we talk a lot about specialty drugs, and there are some out there that are just ridiculous in cost. There's several that you can, instead of hepatitis C, for example, instead of taking the drug that cures it, you can take a drug that manages it, and it's about a $75,000 cost for an injection, and you get 4 or 5 of those injections a year. So very, very important that whenever, and I'm an advocate, right? You want to make sure that you're doing everything you can to be healthy. So don't take any of this as I'm telling you not to get treatment. Just be more involved, ask more questions. Specialty drugs, is there an alternative? Are they only giving you that, the doctor only giving you that specialty drug prescription because he's getting ready to get a trip to the Bahamas from the drug company? So just be more of an advocate in asking those questions. Again, consumer-driven healthcare was something we talked about years ago. We've never had to worry about that. We've got our PPOs and our high deductibles with our HSAs in place, so we've never had to worry about how those bills were going to get paid. So this, again, I believe, is another fight that we're having with the insurance companies. Along with Westar, we've also got our MOUs that we're working on for shared work. I know I talked to you about the IT stuff where we can share labor with the non-union so that we, especially when it comes to being able to do that work remotely, so we're still maintaining our ability to grow not be eroded by the non-union, so getting the parameters set on that. We're getting pretty close to an agreement on that. We're also looking at offsetting some of the work in 1613's territory up there in Kansas City metro area with 304 workers, so that not to do collections, but they've got such a burden of bad debt in the Kansas City metro area that they'll be focusing the FSPs in that area for that, and then our electric service people can come in and take over the extra work. So not involved with collections, just the other work that they would be doing if they weren't collecting. Again, most importantly, we're not giving up our agreements on the foundation of the mutual aid. So by making these types of agreements, we keep that issue alive, but still allow us to stay fully employed with work. And then lastly, we reached an agreement on the generation side with the stack testing. So as the company comes forward and starts doing their emissions testing, we will have both an electrician there to take care of the power needs for that trailer, and then I&C tech in order to do the tool work for the data that they'll be gathering. We also established a committee for the DHA audit. There's some new rules that comes with dust hazard analysis, and so we've got a committee that's going to help with the third-party vendor that's going to come out and look at what we can do better or to fit the guidelines of what the new dust hazard policy will be. Line clearance, we finally got our next meeting scheduled for towards the end of July. So it gives David, Chad more time to get out there and talk to line clearance members. What we really need is some good information on what it's going to take to get a successful agreement. So David's put together a survey, and we really like to get those out. The more feedback we can get from the members, the better opportunity we'll have for success in that agreement. So please stay interactive with David every chance you get. Everybody else out there, please encourage those line clearance members to make sure their membership is active. You know, we went from the 1523 to 304 jurisdictions, and so a lot of the dues deduct forms need to be redone. So we need to make sure we're keeping up on that paperwork. So encourage those members to stay involved, not only on the membership, but then also, of course, on the issues at the table that we're facing. Along that same line of organizing, David and Chad were out in western Kansas here the last couple of weeks and on sunflower property and getting a little more foundation into the organizing drive out there. So I know I've talked to you before and said that you'll be seeing David and Chad in your areas. We have a couple of external targets we're looking at. I'm a little frustrated because as much wind power is being generated in the state and new wind farms being built, and yet we've had this Facebook page on wind techs. We've toured wind sites. We've talked to potential members out there, and just can't seem to get through the issue of what power you have whenever you have a voice in your wages and working conditions. One of the things I've heard from some of the folks out there has been, oh, they treat me fine, I don't need to be union. Well, that's great. We want you to be treated fine. We want you to be treated fine as union members too. But the most important thing that you have as a union member is a collective voice and not that singular voice. Some of the potential members out there don't understand the importance of that, and just because you might have a good rapport with your manager and he treats you all right, there's a bigger scope of how much better your collective ability to have a contract would be if you were union. So need to bust that paradigm, and it's not about me, it's about us, right? So again, still visiting the line clearance show-ups, and we'll keep you informed of our external targets as they come about. And again, I hope you all have a great holiday weekend. Stay dry, and hopefully we'll be able to do some barbecuing. Thank you very much.